Hi there. Plagiarism, or not giving other authors appropriate credit for their words, thoughts and ideas, is a topic that often creates a lot of anxiety in students who are new to college or university. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 top tips on how you can avoid inadvertently plagiarising the work of other authors. Before we get on to the 5 tips, I am making the assumption in filming this video that you're already familiar with the concepts of citation, quotation and referencing. If that's not the case, you might want to check out the video in the link that's going to appear at the top of the screen now before watching the rest of this video. The first tip I'm going to give you on avoiding plagiarism is very simple, but it's incredibly important. And that tip is to avoid using the copy and paste facility. There's a very good reason behind this. Even if you're using the copy and paste facility to create notes, what will often happen is you will copy and paste something into your notes. You won't need those notes immediately, but you will come back to them when you're going to produce a piece of work, at which point you'll have forgotten that the notes do not come from you, they actually come from another author. Of course, those notes will then find their way into your work, and before you know it, you'll be up on a plagiarism accusation. So always avoid using copying and pasting, even when you're just compiling notes. The second piece of advice I'd give you is to avoid having your sources within your field of view as you're engaged in the process of writing. And the reason for this is really simple. Your sources will have been composed by people that not only have a degree, but also very likely an advanced degree, and very possibly a number of years' experience in producing publishable quality work. Now, the problem with having such high quality examples of writing available as you are trying to write is that you're probably going to lean too heavily on those sources in your own composition. And this tends to result in something we call lazy paraphrasing. Now, lazy paraphrasing is still considered plagiarism, so it's something you need to avoid at all costs. The third piece of advice I'd give you is that whenever possible, it's always best to avoid using quotations. And there's a very simple reason for this. It's very easy, if you're using quotations frequently, to get a bit sloppy or a bit forgetful with the use of quotation marks. And of course, it's quotation marks that help the reader to distinguish which words are yours and which words belong to other authors. So if you start getting sloppy or forgetful with the use of quotation marks, what you can end up doing is inadvertently claiming the words of other authors as your own. The other reason you want to avoid using quotations is that it's very easy to fall into the trap of becoming over-reliant on them and creating an essay which is effectively a compilation of the words of other authors. And even if you acknowledge the words of other authors properly, that's not plagiarism, but it is something we call source dependency. And you don't get marks for source-dependent work because what you're in effect doing is just creating a compilation of other people's words. And what we want to see as tutors is that you understand and can articulate subject material in your own words. The fourth piece of advice I'm going to give you is that the need to cite and reference the work of other authors properly is not affected by where you obtained their work from. It doesn't matter whether you got their work from an internet site or perhaps a publication, printed publication like a journal article. The need to cite and reference them is unaffected. It's no defence to say that, well, the work was publicly available on the internet, therefore I didn't think I needed to cite and reference it. You do. If in doubt, always cite and reference. The last piece of advice I'm going to give you is that it's very important to give yourself enough time to benefit from the results of any originality checking software, such as Turnitin, that your university or college may ask you to submit your work to. Now, originality checking software like Turnitin will return an originality report on your work. And this report will identify any areas of overlap between your work and work that that particular software has seen before. And it's your job to then make a decision as to whether any areas of overlap between your work and pre-existing publications are legitimate or could be construed as plagiarism. But of course, this takes time to do. And if you do identify any sections in your work that might be an issue from an academic integrity point of view, then of course you need to allow yourself enough time to amend those sections of work and then resubmit it to the originality checking software. If you submit your work at the last minute, then you're obviously not giving yourself enough time to benefit from the results of the originality checking software. So always submit your work in good time, at least 24 hours, I'd say more like 48 hours before the deadline, and that gives you enough time to examine the originality report and, if necessary, act on it and resubmit your work. Many instances of plagiarism are inadvertent rather than deliberate. They're the result of the adoption of unsound approaches to studying and writing. By following the tips provided in this video, you can avoid these unsound practices and ensure that your writing remains plagiarism free.